we can make this sound test. I'm not sure about this though. Sounds pretty echoey. It sounds really echoey, doesn't it? Welcome to the first video from the new office, my first ever office, and I hope you enjoy the slightly greener background than normal. Well, most of you probably know already that Norway is a quite expensive country to live in, but for the ones that are thinking about moving here sooner or later, today we're going through a list of all the expensive that we have currently on a monthly basis living in a small house on the countryside in Norway. I've made this list for today that's covering everything from housing to going to the gym and even having a pet, so it is quite a few expenses and we better get started. Now that we are not living at the cabin anymore, we've started to rent a small house right down by the fjord. The house has 3 small to medium-sized bedrooms, a quite big living area / kitchen, and also a quite big bathroom. The house is at the end of a quite steep hill, which most likely makes it a bit cheaper as it is harder to access in winter. Well, anyways, we enjoyed quite much here and the rent is just $900 per month. This price differs a lot from the ones in the city, and I guess for renting a house you're pretty much as cheap as it gets, except if you maybe go much farther north. In addition to the rent, you may need to calculate to pay for housing insurance, which in our case adds another $15 to the bill. The winters are pretty cold up here, and in most rental contracts electricity is not included. We haven't received our first bill yet, but if we are somewhat aligned with the average, this would be an extra cost of $60 per month. In terms of water, we're a bit better off. This house is connected to a well, and in the kitchen we have a filtration system, so there are no charges for that. Wastewater and other waste services are included in the rent, even though trash is a bit of a different thing on the countryside. Generally, we collect our trash in front of the house in a bigger trash can that we, once that is full, bring up the hill and 1 kilometer down the street to a container which is in charge for the area. It is a bit of a hassle sometimes, and I'm not looking forward to do it in winter when the street might be too slippery for the car, but that is what you're going to have to expect, living a bit, slightly off the grid. There are quite a few differences between living in the city or on the countryside, but the one that has the most impact is that distances are much longer, especially here in Norway. Without owning a car, going to work, buying groceries or having a gym trip would be impossible, or at least it would take ages. So buying a car was pretty much the first thing we did moving to Norway. We knew already in Denmark that if we would live at the cabin for a while, going grocery shopping without being able to drive is not an option. We ended up getting a 2014 Toyota Pro Ace, which is having 3 seats, so the taxes are a bit lower, with a mileage of around 100,000 kilometers, and back then we paid 80,000 kroner, which translates to $9,400. Let's assume our car holds for the next 6 years, then this amount broken down to a monthly rate would be $130. To that, we once again need to add insurance at $115 and fuel at $96. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not done with this yet. Depending on where you go with your car, there are also ferries to take and toll roads to pay. Right now we don't have to have too much trouble with that, as we're staying mainly on this side of the fjord. But depending on where you would be going around, that might be another $50 of monthly expenses. Just as a quick example, the short ferry over the fjord here, which is 30 minutes, is costing $20 each way. At least it's not much of a hassle. There is this little thing called AutoPass that you install in the front window of your car and everything will be deducted automatically. Well, I see we're still not done. Then there is changing from summer to winter tires twice a year, And if you're driving as much as we do right now, which is 25,000 kilometers a year, then there will be also a small or medium service every other year. And I can tell you, in this country with so many hills, the brakes are using up quite quick, so better put in some buffer for repairs. I've added that up quickly just as an example, and for us, with all services included, we are paying around $85 per month extra. All in all, that ends up at $476 per month in transportation costs for us two. Assuming that you're pretty similar to us and you like to maintain a pretty decent and healthy diet, including some chocolate, good amounts of meat, fish and vegetables, then you are very likely to end up somewhere around $720 a month for two. The thing is, we are looking quite much at our expenses and go pretty much for everything that is seasonal or on offer. So this number isn't even close to the max that you can go with your grocery bill. So in terms of eating proper and sustaining a decent amount of calories, I think this is pretty much as cheap as it gets. Despite living on the countryside, we are still going to the gym as our physical and especially mental health is pretty dependent on that. And this adds another $108 to our monthly expenses. This is again for two, but I thought it would be much cheaper to go to a gym which isn't even private on the countryside. Well, the gym that we're going to is the only option with proper weights and equipment, so there isn't much for us to do about it. If you're thinking about working remotely from a place in the countryside, then you will also need a fast internet connection. Everything in regards to internet here is pretty expensive. Having a Wi-Fi subscription with 60 megabytes per second download speed is somewhere around $60, and if you would like to have an unlimited data package for your phone, that will be another $65. We are very lucky at the moment to still be able to use our Danish contracts, so our joint phone bill for two phones with unlimited data usage is $65. As we are using our phones for pretty much everything and just enable a personal hotspot if we need to use our computers, also even uploading to YouTube and cloud storage, we do not have any cable-based Wi-Fi subscription. Here's this one thing that might be interesting for some of you, but not all of you. On the countryside, you have space and slightly different possibilities. So many people tend to have a pet. And I think it's pretty much the biggest joy the countryside brings with it, so let's assume you would like to have a dog. Without considering the initial price of a pure breed dog in Norway, which is around $1,500, the vaccines as well as the food add up to another $65 per month. This is speaking about a big dog breed, so you know Yuki, he's eating quite a lot. Alright, time to get it all together on one piece of paper, and if we consider everything that I have mentioned before, this would be a monthly expense of $2,408. The good thing is that we are two and everybody takes the share of the bill, so it will end up being $1,204 per month per person. I know that sounds and is a lot to live a standard, non-luxurious life up here, but all things considered, there is free healthcare, and comparatively, the income is much higher than in other countries. So if you have a regular income based on Norwegian salaries, this shouldn't be a problem at all. For now, we had this bit of income from working with the tourism board, and hopefully there will be a bit more from YouTube in the future. And all in all, I have to say, it is manageable. I would even say that spending this amount of money in Norway is getting you much farther than spending a lower income level adjusted amount in other countries. So I hope this was useful for all the guys of you that are a bit struck by the dream of living in a small house, farm or cabin on the countryside in Norway. And maybe it gets you a bit closer to making the decision to go for it. So that's it from me. I'll go and do some work to pay some bills. And we'll see you soon.